There we go. In order to graph these with an XY chart, we're going to need to find where my line of symmetry is and my vertex, okay? So this is a U-shaped graph, a parabola, and we have to find that vertex. And again, we're gonna go one number up and one number down, just like before. So in order to find that, my line of symmetry or my vertex is x equals negative b over 2a. So we're gonna find this b value here, we're gonna make it negative, and then we're gonna put it over 2 times a, which is that number out in front of that x squared. Okay? 2a. So it's negative b over 2a. So if I'm looking at this first number 1 here, a would be that negative 2 in front of the x squared. B is that 12. C would be that negative 17. Okay? And I just go ahead and label A, B, C above it. Okay, now I'm going to find that x, that first value. So x equals negative b. So I'm going to put a negative sign. Then I'm going to look for b. B was what? 12. So I got negative 12 over 2 times a. So I'm going to go look at where is a. A is right here. A is what? Negative 2. Don't forget it's a negative. Don't forget your sign. So I have negative 12 on top over what's 2 times negative 2? Yeah, negative 4. So I have a negative 12 over a negative 4, which is what? Good, positive 3. So on my XY chart, I'm going to make my XY chart on this side. My first number I'm going to start with is that 3. Okay, now I'm going to go 1 up from that number, which is 4, and 1 down from that number, which is 2. Here's where it gets icky. Just like the last one, we have to plug them in. But as you can see, there's a little bit more to plug into than with the absolute value stuff. Okay, so we're going to do y equals, I have negative 2. And instead of that x, I'm now going to put in that 3. So I'm going to put a parenthesis, 3 squared plus 12 times that x value, which is 3, minus 17. So I replaced every single x with that 3. Now I'm going to keep solving that. Order of operations tells me I need to do the exponents first. So I need to take that 3 squared first. What is 3 squared? What's 3 times 3? 9. Good. So right now I have negative 2 times 9 plus the 12 times the 3 minus the 17. I'm going to write out that step because I need you to see where it's coming from first. And then eventually we're just going to talk about it, not write it. What's negative 2 times 9? Negative 18. Good. What's 12 times 3? 36. And then I have minus 17. What's negative 18 plus 36 minus 17? And you can use the calculator. You can do it in your head too, because negative 18 plus 36 is what? 18. What's 18 minus 17? 1. So this is 1. So when I put in 3, I got out 1. Yeah, that's the part that's icky. Okay, next one, y equals, replacing that x with a 4 now. So I have negative 2 parenthesis 4 squared plus 12 times 4 minus 17. So I just replaced every x with that 4 now. Okay. Exponents first. What's 4 squared? 16. What's 16 times that negative 2 out in front? Yeah, negative 32. Okay. What's 12 times 4? 48 minus 17. What's 32? Negative 32 plus 48 minus 17. negative 1. Okay, now we're going to plug in the next one, but we're hoping that these two are the same again. Just like with our absolute value graphs, we want these two to be the same. Okay, so we're going to plug in that 2. Y equals negative 2 parentheses 2 squared plus 12 times 2 minus 17. What's 2 squared? 4 times that negative 2 out in front? Negative 8. Good. Plus, what's 12 times 2? 24 minus 17. What's negative 8 plus 24 minus 17? Let's hope it's negative 1, is it? Yeah, it's negative 1. So that worked. They match. That's a good sign. Now we're going to graph those 3 points. 3, 1. 4, negative 1. 2, negative 1. And remember to try to make this a U-shaped graph. It is a parabola. So you want that curve in here. This curve right here. You don't want it to be as straight like the absolute value ones. You want it to have that nice curve. Okay, let's try number 2. Okay, ABCs. A is the number in front of that x squared. What's in front of that x squared right now? What's invisible there? A 1. So A is 1, B is negative 6, and C is 8. So there will be a couple that are not in the right form, but not on this worksheet on tomorrow's technically, but we're going to go over that before you leave me today. It's a good question. There are some that are not in standard form. Okay, x equals negative b. So what is b? Negative 6. So I have a negative 6 over 2 times a. What's a? 1. What's a negative? Positive. So I have 6 over 2, which is what? 3, right? 6 over 2 is 3. 2 times a. Yep, good question. Because that's just part of the finding this right here. Finding that vertex, finding that line of symmetry. Okay, so the first number we're going to put in our XY chart is a 3. One number up from there is a 4. One number down is a 2. Okay, plugging them in. Y equals, I have x squared. Well, instead of x, I'm going to put in that 3. So I have 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 8. Okay, everyone understand where I got that 3 and why I put it in there, right? Comes from right here. Okay, what's 3 squared? 9. What's 6 times 3? 18. So I have 9 minus 18 plus 8. Negative 1. Okay, now we're going to plug in the 4. Y equals 4 squared minus 6 times the 4 plus the 8. Replacing every x with that 4. I always put it in parentheses so I remember to do it correctly. 4 squared. 16. 6 times 4. 24. So I have 16 minus 24 plus 8. That is 0. So when I put in 4, I got out 0. We're hoping when we put in 2, we better get out 0. Let's check. Y equals 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 8. 2 squared is 4. 6 times 2 is 12. So I have 4 minus 12 plus 8. Is that 0? Yep, so that means we did it right. Now we're going to graph those 3 points. 3, negative 1, 4, 0, and 2, 0. So this U-shaped graph is going in the upward direction. Okay, let's keep going. Let's try number 3. List your ABCs. A is in front of x squared, B is in front of x, and C. X equals negative B. What's B? Oh, what's B? 4. Good. So negative 4 over 2 times A. What's A? Oh, sorry. Yep, I can. It's weird because I can see it online, but I can't see it. That should help. 2 times A. What's A? Negative 2. So 2 times negative 2 on the bottom is a negative 4. So I have negative 4 over negative 4. What's that? Positive 1. So my XY chart, my first number is going to be that positive 1. Go 1 up from that number to 2, 1 down from that number to 0. Okay, we're going to plug them in. Y equals negative 2 parenthesis, instead of an x, I'm going to put in that 1 squared plus 4 times that 1 plus 1. Okay, got to do exponents first, order of operations. You got to write down these steps. Okay? 1 squared. 1 times that negative 2. Negative 2. Good. 4 times 1 is still 4. And then I have plus 1. So I have negative 2 plus 4 plus 1. Good. 3. So when I put in 1, I got out 3. Now we're going to plug in the 2. Y equals negative 2 parenthesis 2 squared plus 4 times 2 plus 1. Order of operations tells me I got to do these exponents first. What's 2 squared? 4 times the negative 2 out in front. Negative 8. Plus, what's 4 times 2? 8. Then I have plus 1. What's negative 8 plus 8 plus 1? 1. So when I put in 2, I got out 1. Now the beauty of it is when you plug in the 0, that one's always so easy. Because if I have negative 2 times 0 squared plus 4 times 0 plus 1, all of that becomes 0. So you have 0 plus 1, which is 1, and they match up. So that's good. That's a good sign. That means we're doing it right. 1, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. Nice U-shaped curve. Try to do it as much as you can. This U is going in the downward direction again. All right, let's try 4. Make sure I have enough room for everybody here. All right, ABCs. X equals negative, so I always put my negative sign down, and now I say B. What's B? Negative 12. So I have a negative 12, and I'll fix that on my next step. Over 2 times A. What's A? Negative 3. Negative 12 is A. Positive 12. 2 times negative 3. Negative 6. What's 12 divided by negative 6? Negative 2. Yep. So that's where we're going to start our XY chart. 1 up from there, -1, 1 down, -3. Y equals -3, parenthesis, instead of that x, I'm going to put in that -2, minus 12 times the -2, minus 9. What's -2 squared? +4, right? So then we have 4 times the -3. Negative what? 12. -12 times the -2 gives you a positive what? 12 times 2, 24, minus 9. So I have -12 plus 24 minus 9. 3. Good job. Okay, now we're going to plug in that -1. Y equals -3, parenthesis, -1 squared minus 12 times that -1 minus 9. Okay. -1 squared. What's a -1 times the -1? +1 times that -3 out in front. -3. -12 times -1 is a plus 12. And then minus 9. What's -3 plus 12 minus 9? All that work for 0. Okay, when we plug in -3, we're hoping up to get 0. -3 squared. 9 times that -3 out in front. -27, good. What's a -12 times a -3? Positive what? 36, good. Minus 9, does that equal 0? Is a -27 plus 36 minus 9 0? Yeah, we're good. Graph those 3 points, -2, 3. -1, 0. -3, 0. Try to make that curve. It's hard when they're really skinny to make it look like a curve. Sometimes it looks more like a V shape. But you really want to emphasize the curve because this is a square, so it's a quadratic, so it's a parabola. Do you want me to keep doing some? Might as well, right? Or do you need a break for a second? Good. Okay, we're going to keep going. A, B's, and C's. A is in front of the x squared. What's in front of that x squared? -1. Good. And I'm going to write in my 1 so that I remember it's a -1. B is that -2. Uh-oh, what's C? Nothing, so it's 0. You can always put in a 0. Do I really need C? No. Okay. Put my x, oh, I got to do x equals over here. Then I'll do my xy chart. X equals -b, so I'm going to put a negative sign down. Then I'm going to find what b is. Was a -2, so I have a -2 over 2 times a, which is -1. What gets hard is there's a lot of negatives, and it changes signs, and you got to be really careful. So a negative on the top makes a +2, and then that would be over a -2. Well, 2 over -2 makes what? -1. So that's where we're going to start our XY chart at -1. 1 up from there, please stay with me. 1 down from there, -2. Y equals, we're going to plug in that -1. So I have that negative, and then I'm going to put the -1 in for x squared minus 2 times that -1, and I don't need to put the +0, that's plain silly. Okay, order of operations says I need to do the exponent first. What's -1 squared? What's a -1 times a -1? +1, but now we have this negative on the outside, so it makes a -1 again. -2 times a -1 is a +2. What's -1 plus 2? 1. So when I put in -1, I got out 1. Okay, y equals negative, parenthesis. Now we're going to put in the 0. Love putting in zeros because what's going to happen there? It's going to equal 0. What do you want to guess that's going to happen when we put in -2? It's going to equal 0. I always say make sure, but we're going to make sure it is 0. -2 squared. Kind of running out of room here. -2 squared is 4, but that negative sign on the outside makes it a -4. -2 times -2 is a +4. Look at that, it is 0, like we thought. -1, 1. They go up by halves, so just be aware that you need to watch for that. 0, 0, -2, 0. Curve that line, draw in your parabola. Okay, I'll do one more on this and then I'll let you work for a little bit and then I'll pause and come back and explain something on your worksheet for tomorrow. Okay. Write in your A, B's, and C's. A, B, C. Remember, A is in front of that x squared. That's like a -1 in front of that x squared. Okay. X equals -b. What is b? 2 over 2 times a, which is -1. So that's a -2 over -2, which makes what? +1, yep, good. XY chart. Start at that +1. Go 1 up from 1, which is 2. 1 down from 1, which is 0. Okay, now we're going to start plugging them in. Y equals negative, parenthesis, instead of x, I'm going to put in that 1, plus 2 times that 1, plus 3. Okay, 1 squared is 1. Now I have that negative on the outside to make that a -1. Okay, 2 times 1 is still 2. And I still have that plus 3. So I have -1 plus 2 plus 3. 4. So when I put in 1, I got out 4. That's that vertex where that line of symmetry starts. Y equals negative, parenthesis. Now I'm going to put in that 2. 2 squared plus 2 times the 2 plus 3. Okay, 2 squared is 4. Now I have that negative on the outside, so that makes it a -4. Plus the 2 times 2, which is a +4, plus 3 is what? 3. Okay. If you don't want to write out the last one because you can see what's happening, that's fine. I'm going to write it out just for the sake of writing it out. 0 squared is still 0. 2 times 0 is still 0. Plus 3 is 3. Love putting in 0. 1, 4. 2, 3. And 0, 3. Try to make it curved. Draw on your parabola. This parabola is also facing downward. Okay, I want you to start on number 7 on your own, and then after a little bit, I'm going to pause and get you to do something from the worksheet for tomorrow. Okay, worksheet number 2. If I wanted to list my A, B's, and C's, A is in front of the x squared, so A is 3. What's B? And 1 in front of the x. What's in front of the x? 1. Is there an x there? So it's a 0. It's not there, so it's 0, and C would be 0. And that's okay. That actually makes your life a little bit easier. So when you're doing x equals negative b, you have negative 0 over 2 times 3. Well, negative 0 is just 0. 0 over anything is what? 0. So you're going to start your xy chart at 0. Up 1, down 1, and then you're going to plug them in. It's going to be much easier. If I plug in 0 here, 0 squared is still 0 times 3 is still 0. If you plug in 1, 1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3. Negative 1 squared, what's a negative 1 times a negative 1? Positive 1 times 3, 3. So we got 0, 0. 1, 3, negative 1, 3. Try to make that curved. That's really hard when it's skinny to make it nice and curved. Okay. Okay, so number 2, very similar. 3 and 4 are just like what we just got done doing. A, B, C, B, B, C. Okay, backside. 5 and 6 are just like what we just got done doing on that other worksheet. Here's A, here's B, here's C. Okay, number 7. Now it's finally not in standard form. Okay, this is called vertex form. Okay, so it's not in standard form. This is in vertex form, which actually makes your life easier because vertex form is what you'd really want it in ultimately. Because you can go straight to your XY chart. You don't have to do that negative b over 2a thing when it's in vertex form. When it looks like this with the parenthesis, you don't have to do that. You just ask yourself, what would make this stuff in the parentheses 0? A positive 3, yep. So I'm gonna start at 3 with my XY chart, go 1 up, 1 down, and then I'm gonna plug them in. Way easier. So plug in this 3. 3 minus 3, I'm going to write it out for you. 3 minus 3 squared plus 1. What is 3 minus 3? 0. So what's 0 squared? 0. What's 0 squared plus 1? 1. Okay, plug in the next one. 4. 4 minus 3 squared plus 1. What's 4 minus 3? 1. What's 1 squared? 1. What's 1 plus 1? 2. What do you think this one's going to be? 2. Okay. You can do your math, figure it out. 3, 1. 4, 2. And 2, 2. Make sure you have that nice U-shaped graph. And that one's done. So when it's in vertex form, it's actually easier. So when it looks like this, so number 8 will be very easy. Go straight to that XY chart. Let's look. What else? Number 1 and 2 is very similar to the first 2 you did on that page. 3 and 4 are like the other worksheet. So then the other 2 vertex forms would be 7 and 8. Okay.